What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Behind the Glass Sports Podcast. We thank you for joining us on this lovely Tuesday. Bear with me here, as apparently I've gained Spider-Man strength and can break my microphone stand whenever I want to. So I'm going to try not to destroy things this morning, as apparently my touch just has the Thanos ability to just crumble things with a snap. We got a huge show for you guys today. BOL is here, as well as Nikola Jokic. He's finally in the States. Huge deal for the Nuggets. But before we get into all that, thanks for tuning in, whether you're watching on YouTube or you're listening via Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Anchor, Google Podcasts, Pocket Cast, Breaker, Overcast, and Radio Public, I should say. If you want to follow us on Twitter, for Brandon at Brandon_Stoll, for myself at Stephen Priest Jr. But like I said, huge show for you guys today. Justin Simmons, he signed his franchise tender. Will they get a long-term deal done? They have until tomorrow for that deadline to try and figure things out. NFL players not thrilled about the new protocols that are coming out. One huge NFL star said he might potentially sit out if one thing occurs. We'll talk about that. But of course, Jokic in the States, as I mentioned, BOL getting some run with the Nuggets in their practice, since there's like 17 players missing from the Nuggets that aren't in the bubble, apparently. As well as one legend spoke to the Nuggets about their season and how they can approach their championship run. And of course, ESPN gave their biggest concern for each NBA team ahead of the restart. And what was the question for the Nuggets? All of that today. Huge Nuggets-themed episode, which we love, of course. But let's get right into it. Nikola Jokic, we finally know where he is at. I can call off the search dogs, the helicopters, the drones that I had flying around trying to figure out where he was.
So you're the one delaying everything.
Yes, I was delaying everything. I was trying to figure out where he was, if he was fat, had he been eating, what was the deal? Where was he at? We saw a fan posted a couple days ago a picture of him in the Chicago, or one of the Chicago airports. I think there's just one, but he was in Chicago at the airport, just sitting down, looking very Jokic-like in a yellow t-shirt, some basketball shorts, and just chilling. So he doesn't look as skinny as he did in that Serbian picture that was taken. He looks a little bit more bulked up, but he definitely looks, you know what he looks like? He looks like, 2014 Jokic. I mean, he wasn't super skinny, but he wasn't fat.
With probably
either.
more muscle.
Exactly. So it looks like he bulked up a little bit. But then again, I mean, he was sitting down and kind of hunched over. So who knows? I mean, you can't really tell too much from that angle. Regardless, though, Jokic is back in the States. We don't know if he's in the bubble. I would assume he's going to be there, if not today, at the very least, by the end of the week.
Yeah.
Huge news for the Nuggets, though.
Yeah, he has to. How long do they have to stay? Because I know media members would have to stay 10 days into the bubble. And if you exit the bubble, you have to quarantine for 10 days. But for players, I don't think it's 10 days. I think it's maybe 5.
I think it's 8 because we saw Rashawn Holmes, the center for the Kings. He crossed the buggy line outside of Disney World to get his food from the Uber driver, and they were like, "No, 2319, get in your room now!" And they had to spray him down and shave him. It was the whole thing. I saw
it. So yeah, I mean, if the games start in 16 days, so he needs to be in the bubble probably by, I would say, maybe by Thursday or Friday at the latest, at least to get him a couple of days of actual practice and just to kind of get him going. But it's same with the other guys, by the way. Same with MPJ, Gary Harris, Monte Morris. So yeah, hopefully they're a whole team by the end of the week, and at that point, I think everything is fine. But I don't think it's really as big of a deal that they're not there. Really, it's not. I don't think it's. If anything, they should all be in shape. Are they going to be in game shape? No, but no one is even right now. After practicing for however long, no one's in game shape. No one will be in game shape until probably after the initial 8 games. Maybe a little bit before, maybe halfway through those 8 games. That players won't be in game shape until. So I don't think it's really the biggest deal that he's not there. Honestly, he can take his time because we know that when they do start, at least for me, I do believe that he'll be ready to go. Jokic's game doesn't really rely on he needs to be in super game shape and needs to be able to play 45 minutes, a night. Like he can kind of come in and just be himself right away. So I'm not really worried about him. I am worried about MPJ, Gary Harris, and Monte Morris though, and the rest of the guys, and not just getting into game shape, but getting used to playing again, because we're gonna see a lot of soft tissue injuries throughout the league, and two of those guys that are missing right now have been very injury prone. So I don't really want to have those two guys, especially Gary Harris and MPJ. Like you can't you need Gary Harris defensively. His offense is his offense, but his defense you need. And MPJ, I mean, we were all excited for him. Why? For him to play in this year's playoffs. Him and Jeremy Grant are the two big differences here this this playoff run than last year, right? So those two guys are really important, and they need as much length as they can get when they get to playing the Clippers and the Lakers. So they need those guys, definitely.
Yeah, and what I'm thinking about, and for those who don't know, it was reported that MPJ, Gary Harris, and Torrey Craig have not made the trip to Orlando, so they're not in the bubble as far as we
Right,
know.
right.
There hasn't been a sight of Monte Morris, and this was reported by Matt Moore of CBS Sport, or excuse me, the Action Network now. There hasn't been any photos or videos. That's not to say that he's not there, but
Mm-hmm.
they've pretty much taken photos of videos of everybody that is there, and Monte Morris has been nowhere to be found. So
They did
if we put
announce
all
though
that,
what names they are wearing on their backs, and all of those guys, their jerseys were up on that list. So
okay,
they will be there because they made a decision on what they're gonna put on the name of their on the back of their jerseys. So except for one, and it was Jokic. But we know
right.
Jokic is gonna be there. He's just not there yet. So I would assume, honestly, if they put that list up, they all might be there.
Yeah, I don't know.
Or
Well,
at least in
then
in
why would
contact,
Chris
but
Haynes report that then? I think they're all gonna be
I mean
there.
they
I
posted
just
that
don't think they're there
yesterday.
now. Right.
So
So
I
I
don't
don't
know.
know. I think with all those guys, there's really, I mean, there's only one situation you can understand here. It's either they have the virus or they're being quarantined because they are possibly around someone with
Right.
the virus.
Right.
So I think that's has to be the reason. Like you said, if they had already opted out, we would have known by now.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's a situation where they're just not showing up. I think it's just a situation where they're either going through the virus, tested positive, and it hasn't been reported yet, or they've been exposed to someone with the virus, and the NBA has told them, or the Nuggets have told them, hey, you need to quarantine before you can come down here and test negative a certain amount of times, and we can go from there. So I think it's only a matter of time, and the Nuggets aren't the only team that's going through this as well. I mean, some teams have their biggest stars not going, like the Houston Rockets. I
Right.
mean, James Harden isn't there. Russell Westbrook wasn't there, and we found out yesterday he tested positive for the virus. We still have no word on James Harden. Maybe we get something today, but I'm only assuming that he's probably either tested positive or maybe he was around Russell and now he has to quarantine.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of the situation you're dealing with there. But I think right now, when you look at this team, hopefully everybody gets there. I agree with you. A soft tissue injury. Look at you looking back on our health class we had in college. Soft tissue injury. Brandon with the recall over there. But no, that's going to be a huge concern. You're going to see a lot of like hamstrings, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Maybe like strained calves. I mean, you're going right back into action. I get these guys are getting a month, but I mean, they have a whole off season to really build up and ramp up. And it's not to say that these guys haven't been working out still, at least most of them, but I just feel like it's not the same. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. It's going to be something to watch and something very interesting, which kind of leads us, ironically enough, to our next kind of point here. If one of those guys were to go down, Bol, he's been getting some run, and you know what? He looks good. He looks good, albeit it's in scrimmages and practice, whatever. And I'm sure they're not going to show his misses. They're not going to throw a hype video. Oh look, Bol's went 0 for 3 before we showed you these two layups he made. No, but at the same time he looked good. And Mason Plumlee, my favorite Nugget, the one I despise the most with all of my heart, who gives me so much stress and anxiety, he said that Bol he's going to be a special player, and if you're a Nuggets fan, be ready for it.
Yeah.
I'm excited about Bol. I know you're excited about Bol. What did you see? Did you see that? I'm assuming you saw the video of him. What did you
Yeah.
think when you saw that?
Uh, I mean, nothing really new. We know that he's a special talent. We've seen a little bit from him, whether it was in college or in the G League. I mean, in the G League, he didn't play much, but he averaged 12 and 5, 2 blocks in 19 minutes per game. So uh, he can shoot. We all know that 58% from the field in the G League, 36 from three. So that's exciting. But I think the biggest thing is he gives the Nuggets a big weapon that they can use down the road, throughout the playoffs. If they do
Big,
get
literally and figuratively speaking.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing: the one thing that the Lakers have an advantage over really every team is their size. They have JaVale McGee, Dwight Howard, Anthony Davis. Those are 3 7-footers. So, and when your point guard is LeBron James, you got size. Um, so that's the problem that the Nuggets are gonna have to face. Even with the Clippers, they have a lot of bigs too. But that's one of the big things. And in the offseason last year, that's exactly what they addressed. They went out and got Jeremy Grant. They drafted Bol. They knew MPJ was coming in. So they knew that they had to go out and get guys that could give them length, give them the ability to defend in the paint. And that's exactly what they did. So with this going into the bubble here and these first 8 games, I don't think he's going to play much, but he's going to get some minutes. You know, you might see towards either the end of games or maybe the end of the half or something. Kind of when, is like, think of this time, right, that we've had this break. It was essentially an off season. That's why you're seeing Zion look the way he is. John Morant, they're going into their second year at this point. Like, they had their first offseason and they're making that jump. So Zion and Ja are going to be really good. Well, same with MPJ. MPJ just had his first offseason, basically. So
Yeah, but with that though, I mean, they those teams have coaches that have to play those
right,
guys.
right,
Michael
but
Malone doesn't have to play Mike Porter.
right, but we weren't expecting to see Bol until the next season, right? Well, he's had his offseason. So they have these guys. They have access now to Bol. He's healthy. He's ready to go. He's in the same position as everyone else now. Same with MPJ after coming off the ankle injury, right after the All-Star break. He should be ready to go. And so it's not just the Nuggets that are now healthy. It's every team. But the Nuggets had a couple of guys that they were stashing that are now all of a sudden here a little earlier than we all expected. So we're not gonna see them. I don't think we're gonna see them get a whole lot of minutes, but at the same time, against teams like the Lakers or the Clippers, those are guys that can really help the Nuggets. And we talk about how deep the Nuggets are, and that doesn't really help them in the playoffs because they're only gonna play 8-9 guys. But what the depth does do for them is it allows them to change those 8-9 guys. So just like last year we saw in San Antonio, Malone benched Will Barton, put in Torrey Craig to start, right? Well, in the Portland series, he switched it. Barton was better against Portland than he was against San Antonio, and Torrey Craig was struggling a little bit. So he flopped them, or at least was giving Barton a lot more minutes than Torrey. Maybe Torrey was still starting. I can't really remember. But and then Mason Plumlee had a big series against who did Mason Plumlee had a big series against San Antonio, maybe, or was it Portland?
Did he?
Either way, he played a little bit more.
Did
Malone used them a little bit more. But here's the thing. So the Nuggets have, and we talked about this before, you have your starting 5, but off the bench you have Mason Plumlee, Monte Morris, MPJ, Torrey Craig, Bol. Am I missing anyone? Jeremy Grant. That's 6 guys. That's 11 players total. So 2 or 3 of those guys aren't going to get any minutes. But if you're going up against a team like in the first round against Houston, you don't really need a lot of size. You need a lot of wing defenders. So you're going to be using Jeremy Grant, Monte Morris, Torrey Craig, and maybe MPJ. Something like that. Or maybe you do throw Plumlee in there as a backup center for size, for a little bit of advantage. In the second round against the Clippers, though, you might need more size. So you might go Mason Plumlee, Jeremy Grant, Michael Porter Jr., and Bol. So that's what the depth gives them, at least gives Malone, is the ability to kind of just change the rotation for each team that they play throughout the playoffs or throughout, these 8 games. So this is, these first 8 games for them, the seeding games, it's a big chance for guys like Porter, like Bol, to kind of show Malone that they can play, that they are ready to go, and that he can use them in, spurts. It's not like we're going to go out there and day one in the playoffs, we're going to be seeing a lineup of Jamal, Barton, Porter, Bol, and Jokic. Like, we're not going to be seeing that anytime soon. But we will see them in certain points that they can help the team.
I just think that it's unlikely that we see Bol at all in this. The only way I could see him playing is if there's lots of injuries and they have to force him to play. I mean, we don't even know 100% if he's actually fully cleared yet. I don't think that's something that they've released. I would assume he is if he's, participating in 5-on-5 scrimmages and
I don't
stuff
think
like
he
that.
would have gone to the bubble.
Right. But at the same time, when you look back at how Michael Malone has handled MPJ and how long it took for him to get in there, and even when he was playing well, and then he got hurt and then he couldn't recapture that, competency on the defensive end, despite how good he was playing offensively and what we saw he could bring, Michael Malone still sat him. So I don't think in the last 8 games, which could control seeding, and then in the playoffs, there's no way that you're going to see a Bol. I just think it's 100% unlikely, just because, one, he hasn't played regular season action to even build up to this point. These are all going to be meaningful games to a certain extent, even with the 8-game seedings. I get it's just to kind of get teams ramped up and get back into the feel of things, but it's going to control seeding at the end of the day. So you could move up a game or a seed possibly. You're not going to see the Nuggets move from 3 to 1. That's just not going to happen. But they could possibly flip flop with the Clippers at 2. With how we saw him handle MPJ, I just don't see, unless it's injuries or something extreme like that. Guys get sick. There's just no way in my mind that Michael Malone throws him out there, because, I mean, if he couldn't trust MPJ, how is he going to trust Bol, who's lighter than a toothpick on the defensive end, against, Dwight Howard?
Maybe Bol shows a little bit more defensively. I also think that, because that's the main reason why MPJ was held off the court, was his defense. Bol is 7'2". He has a 7'9" wingspan. Like, he can help defensively.
He's what you create in 2K is essentially what it is.
But the other thing is, we're not going to be seeing guys playing 30, 35 minutes a game, at least in the first, the first 8 games. So I think that there's a scenario where, Jokic and Malone is giving Jokic 28 minutes a game. Jamal 28 minutes a game, the starters, under 30, and he's going 10, 11, 12 players deep, and he's using everyone. That doesn't mean that Bol is going to get 15. I'm not saying he's going to get 15 minutes a game. I'm just saying he might get a couple minutes here and there. And depending on what happens in those couple minutes, if he's showing that, yeah, he can play at the NBA level and he can play against playoff teams, then he's going to get a little bit more minutes. And then say game 6, 7, 8 come around and the Nuggets are locked in at 3. They can't move down. They can't move up. Then, they're not going to continue to put Jokic and Jamal out there for extended minutes. There's no reason. Look at what they did last year. Remember the whole thing of they tanked a game against Portland for the seeding? So Malone's not afraid to sit guys. We saw that. So if there's no way to move up or move down, I mean, there's no reason that they should be playing Jokic and Jamal. At least those two, and probably the veterans, Paul Millsap, Gary Harris, Will Barton. Those guys are going to end up sitting a couple nights, and there's going to be a couple of games, at least probably at the end of that 8-game stretch, unless they're really fighting for maybe that 2 seed that they really want, or to hold on to that 3 seed. But again, I don't think it's going to matter whether they're at the 2 or 3. I think it more so matters that they drop to 4 because they would have to play the Lakers in the second round, and they want to make sure that they keep at that 2 or 3 so they don't have to avoid those guys. And then matchups. They don't like to play Dallas. That's a bad matchup for Denver. So if there's a situation where Dallas moved up to the 3 or to the 6 spot, then they might really want to get up to 2. Say they're at the 2 spot. They passed the Clippers. They have 2 games to go. And
Yeah.
Dallas is at the 7 seed. And they're locked in at 7. Well, hey, maybe you know what? Let's drop a game here. Let's sit all these guys and let's try and drop down to the 3 seed. So we don't have to play the Mavericks. So they did all of that to avoid Houston last year, right? They wanted Portland. They got Portland, and it gave them a chance. So it's in the bubble. The 2, 3, 4, 5, it doesn't matter what seed you are. The home court advantage is no longer there, right? All that matters is the matchups. You want to avoid the Lakers in the second round, okay? So that means you do not want 8, 4, or 5. So, that's if you don't want to play Dallas in the first round, okay, well then you got to avoid Dallas. You got to hope that they either drop to 8, which I don't think is possible, or they move all the way up to 5. Or then you're going to have to play some, you're going to have to tank a couple games, or you might have to desperately try and win a couple of games to stay away from them. So that's what really it's going to come down to, is how the seedings are going, and what teams that are the Nuggets looking to probably play once the playoffs start. And that's what's really going to determine how much, guys like BOL, MPJ, how much they play. So we'll see. But it's exciting that he's there. He gives them a weapon. He's a weapon. What he can do at 7'2", shooting the 3, the turnaround fadeaway that he hit in that practice video, he's a special talent, like Mason Plumlee said. So they could really use him. But it'll be interesting to see what Malone does. But yeah, that's probably the biggest concern is how will Malone use the rotation, and if he'll be stubborn and stick with what got them there, and not even take a look at what he has with MPJ and Pole Bowl in the playoffs, or if he'll take a look these first 8 games and maybe they can use them.
Yeah, I just think history shows what he's going to do.
Yeah.
I think MPJ will get some time, but I just think it's highly unlikely. Like I said, unless it's due to sickness or injury, and again, we don't even know if he's 100% cleared yet. I just think it's unlikely. I mean, I would love to see it. I'm sure all of Nuggets fans would love to see it, but that might be something they'll probably sit on until next year, to be honest with you. But it would be a nice surprise if he did. Now, Peyton Manning talked to the Nuggets about their season and just kind of gave them that, pep talk, motivate. Teams do that sometimes, bring in a legend of some sort to come talk to the team. I'm trying to think about what Peyton would say. Hopefully there was some Mason Plumlee slander. Like before he got started, he was like, I just want to take a second. And Mason, stop doing those backwards damn dunks. When you have the rebound, you do not run it up the court. You pass it to a guard. You always get it stolen. Okay. Don't just stop everything you're doing. Whenever you think you should do something, do the immediate opposite. Hopefully that's how he started it. Probably not. But pretty cool that Peyton was able to talk to the Nuggets. What do you think his message was to them?
Don't play hero ball. Well,
Looking at you, Will Barton.
I don't know. I don't really know what he could. Obviously, he hasn't really experienced, playing in a bubble.
Right.
So I don't really know what he could really say. They've experienced the playoffs, so they know what they're about to run into. I don't. I honestly have no idea. It's cool and all, but um, I don't really know what his message could really be.
He's like, honestly, guys, I've never had to guard LeBron before, so I'm kind of all out of words here. I don't know what to tell you.
Never played
They
in a
asked
bubble,
me.
so
I'm not sure why they asked me, but I'm here. So throw your questions at me. What do you have? Ask me anything about Tom. It's fine. No, but it was a pretty cool thing to see him be able to hop on with them, and hopefully, as generic as he could make it, hopefully he gave them some sort of wisdom that can help them
yeah,
get past whoever they need to get past
yeah.
in the playoffs.
But
ESPN ranked. Oh, go ahead.
well, I was just gonna say that it is a big deal though that they have had now playoff experience. A lot of the mistakes that they made last year. I mean, we watched that 4 overtime game, and we all know like the San Antonio series shouldn't have gone 7. The Portland series shouldn't have gone 7. They should have won in 6. So they learned a lot through those first 2 series that they played, and the fact that most of those guys are back, or all those guys are back, and they added Jeremy Grant. It's This is gonna be a very different playoff Nuggets team. It's gonna be I think we're gonna see a very different team than we saw a year ago, against San Antonio and Portland. It's gonna be, I think, a little bit more of a just a calm sense of a team. I think they're just gonna be ready, and I think the break was a I think it helped them, because when those what games right after how many games did they play after the All-Star break? 10. Those games were
Yeah.
brutal. And really before the All-Star break too. I mean, they had that one good game against the Lakers right before the break, but even then they weren't playing well. So I think they're just kind of in that lull of, hey, it's February, March. But I think that the break was really good for them, and that experience that they got a year ago. I think those two things are gonna show a lot, and I think Denver, after kind of thinking about it, and after kind of everyone getting into the bubble and stuff, I just feel like they might have a slight advantage than if they would have continued the season.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And ESPN moving to their biggest questions and concerns for each NBA team ahead of play, or the restart, I should say. Um, they looked at solely Nikola Jokic and what is he going to look like? What's this new figure that he has? How is that going to affect his game? And I've heard a lot of people say like, "Oh, you shouldn't worry about it because really the weight and him throwing it around and punishing people, that's not a part of his game." And I'm like, do you watch Nikola Jokic? When he gets that big rumpa on you, and it's 1, 2 guys are flying off of him, and it's an easy drop step for a layup, or he's seeing the cutter behind him. I watched the Nuggets restart. I don't know if you saw that last night on NBA TV last night. They played it, and they've been doing it for every team where they look back on the season thus far and the biggest plays, and just seeing him just be able to move guys around so easily on the block. And so many times guys are cutting behind him, and he's just doing, just one of these or one of those, and a little behind the back here to Monte. That's a part of his game. That's a huge part of his game, using his weight, throwing it around. I'm concerned about it, but I do agree with people that he'll be able to get up the floor a little bit easier. He'll be a little bit more laterally quick when it comes to defending guys, especially on those pick and rolls. He won't have to immediately foul somebody. And hopefully that comes to a cease halt as well. Him just whenever he gets angry, just running and slapping somebody and monkey slapping people when he gets frustrated. But that was their question. ESPN's question for the Nuggets: what will new Nikola Jokic look like for the Denver Nuggets? How will it impact their playoff run? Is this something that you wonder about as well? Are you more concerned, or is this something that you're kind of sweeping under the rug as not much of a concern?
I think it's a little bit of a concern, but I don't think we could really. I don't think we can't really know anything until we see him.
Yeah.
I mean, what did he weigh before this all happened? 250, 260.
Well, that's the thing. Are
I
we,
mean, how
at
much
media
did he?
day? At
Well,
media day,
media
he was
day,
probably like 300, like
right,
290. He was up there. He was fat. That's
right.
just fat.
But
Through the season before the All Star,
yeah, because he was losing weight throughout the season and he was getting better.
they said he
So
lost 20 to 25 pounds. He's lost like 40 overall, but he was probably closer, like maybe like 270 ish, maybe before things stopped.
so yeah, he's probably at like 250, 240. I just it depends on one, how much weight he did really lose, and two, yeah, he lost weight, but he probably gained some muscle too. So, I mean, it's hard to really know. I think the thing with Jokic is he can play in so many different ways, other than being super athletic and dunking on guys. But he can beat you in the post in other ways. Early in the season, him just backing down against guys, and I mean that was really all he could do because he weighed 300 pounds. So I don't really think. I think we'll see a little bit more of a finesse Jokic in the post, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's probably actually a good thing. A guy who maybe is a little bit quicker in the post, his passing will always still be there. His touch around the basket will always be there. So I don't think it's really the biggest deal in the world. I think there is a slight concern because the one thing is injuries. Again, I don't know, when you change your body like that so quickly and you haven't been playing and now all of a sudden you start to go, that's probably my main concern is, I don't know if, losing all that weight could cause injuries, since he hasn't been playing.
I
But
think it would
if he
actually
had
be more concerning if he went the other way.
right,
If he
right, I was just
gained
about to
more
say if he
weight,
gained
because
more
usually
weight.
when we see players bulk up, add more muscle. I mean, we saw this with Vaughn. That's why I'm concerned. It's off topic, but with Philip Lindsay gaining 8 pounds of
Mhm.
muscle, that's concerning to me. When players rely on that are speed guys that rely on explosion, when they add weight,
Right,
that's when you see, that's more stress being put on your joints, your ligaments. Now, albeit, I mean, it's not like they're 350; they're just gaining a few pounds. But I think it'd be more concerning if he went the other way as opposed to
right,
the way he went.
right. And I mean, but other than that, I mean, I don't really know what else it could. I just, it's the main thing is his strength and backing down. But I don't think he'll still be able to do that. Will he be able to do it as easily? No. Obviously no. But I mean, we that's not his whole game. It's part of his
Right.
game, and the reason why it's part of his game is because at one point he weighed 300 pounds, so he used it.
Mhm.
So I don't think it's gonna be as big of a deal. But again, I mean, we won't know until they start playing. So
Yeah, his 2K Fat Boy badge went from Hall of Fame to silver, and now his quick step badge that got upgraded to silver. So now when he pumps and he tries to beat guys, which is so hilarious to me, when he tries to pump and beat guys off the
yeah,
dribble, because it never works. I mean, guys barely even move. They're like, and they just kind of slide with it. Now he might actually be able to kind of get a little head start on some guys. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm not overly concerned about it, but now, at first, when I heard about how much weight he lost and when I saw, the picture of him in Serbia, I was like, okay, this is concerning. But again, we have to think about Jokic's game as a whole.
hmm,
It's not about him on the post. He has great footwork as well. It's not like he has just one or two moves. I mean, he's very creative around the basket. He's obviously a great passer. He can shoot the ball as well. So I think the Nuggets are in great shape, and it's probably a better thing that you get a more in shape Nikola Jokic as well.
right.
Justin Simmons, moving along to Broncos news here. He signed his franchise tender over the weekend. Now they have until tomorrow. I'm not sure specifically what time. I'm sure it's probably sometime in the afternoon, maybe 2 p.m. or something like that to get a long-term deal done. Otherwise, if they don't, he's playing on that franchise tag. All signs are pointing to, at least over the weekend, that they weren't close on a deal. They're still working on a deal, obviously. Do you think a deal gets done for Justin? And uh, what does a deal look like? Because if they pay him one of the highest paid salaries for a safety, that's a lot of money tied into your safety position on the defensive end with a guy like Kareem Jackson, who was great last year. But if we're being honest, he's, early 30s, mid 30s. How much more time does he have? This maybe he's probably his last year in Denver. I can't remember how long his deal was. I think it was a 3-year deal. Um, do you think Simmons gets a long-term deal done with the Broncos, or is he playing on the franchise tag this year?
Uh, I don't know. I think they get a deal done. Depending on, they're not gonna pay Justin Simmons, I don't think, the most money for a safety. I just don't think they're gonna do that. They don't want to do that. So if Simmons is looking for, he wants to be the highest paid safety, then no, they won't get a deal done. I don't think.
He's
But
just not that type of player, right? Like
no,
when you think Justin Simmons, you don't think like a star. Like he's good, but when I think Justin Simmons, I don't think like, oh, that's a star, right? I don't think Jamal Adams. I don't think, I'm trying to think of some other say, Derwin James. I don't think those type of guys. He's good, he's
right,
solid, but I mean, and this is a good conversation that we always have on the fan, is what game breaking plays or memorable plays do you remember from Justin Simmons making? What plays do you remember?
right.
But
Like
when you think of
even
Kareem
Raheem Moore
Jackson,
is more memorable.
okay, now see, now you're just being rude. Okay, now you're going too far. See, you do this. Now you're going too far. That's right up there now with trading Patrick Mahomes and Russell Wilson and Chris Middleton. That's up there now. That is just, oh, how dare you? Take a timeout for that. I can't believe you. Can't believe you. Unbelievable. Just unbelievable. You compared, so you not only compared Justin Simmons to Raheem Moore, but you said Raheem Moore made more impact plays when he's made the most devastating
No,
play
no, hold
in
on.
Broncos
I
history.
said he's more memorable.
Okay, but for the wrong reasons. Okay, well, okay, when you put it like that, then yes, obviously he's more memorable. But I'm talking about the plays on the field. Goodness gracious, I just can't remember Justin Simmons making any huge impact
Right.
plays. The only play that stands out to me from Justin Simmons was from, I think, his second year when he made that interception against the Raiders to seal the game. That's literally it.
Yeah.
When I think Justin Simmons, that's literally it. And that's not to say he's a bad player. He's a good player. I just don't think of a star when I think Justin Simmons.
Well, and here's the thing. Let's say the last 7 years, 8 years, right? The best safeties that the Broncos have had were who? Last
7
years.
or 8. So we're going back to like 2013, 2012.
Go back to 2013, 2014. So it was last 6, 7.
I mean, they really haven't had any great safeties. I mean,
Well, the best
Brian
ones that they've
Dawkins.
had.
Brian Dawkins was the last great one that I can remember, unless they did, and I just can't remember them off the top. I mean, they have had like Duke Iheanacho, Carter was there. I mean, they haven't had great safety play, have they?
TJ Ward, Darian
Okay,
Stewart.
okay, yeah, TJ. Okay, yeah. Okay. How did I forget those guys? Yeah.
I do not know that.
Maybe because they weren't here for that long.
Maybe, but
plus you gave me 7 or 8 years to look back on, so I had to go. I'm like, did we have someone really?
Well, they
great
got those two guys in 2014, 2015.
Right, yeah.
Right. So those, I guess it was 5, 6 years ago. But my point is, how did they get those guys? Through free agency.
Right.
I don't think having a great safety, or even a good safety, just a good safety, because I wouldn't say Simmons is a great safety in the league. He's good, but he's not, like you said earlier, he's not these other guys. So, you can always, with safeties, you can always get them in free agency. There's a reason why they're available in free agency all the time. It's because they're not as important. And right now, where the Broncos are, if you lose Justin Simmons, I don't think it's the biggest deal in the world, because you're not Super Bowl ready. When you are at that point, then go out and get someone. Spend the money to go get someone or draft someone in the first round. But right now, I mean, one more year with Justin Simmons, and hey, maybe at that point, halfway through the season, he's playing under the franchise tag. Everything's still good. You're all okay with, he's fine with having to wait. And maybe halfway through the season or, 15 games through, or whatever the deadline is, you're one of the top seeds, and you're like, okay, well, we actually might be able to make a run for the next, this year, next year, and the year after. Then that's when you sign Justin Simmons, right? But at this point, for all we know, they could start the season off 0-6, and we're back to square one, and Drew Lock's not the guy. And then, why would you pay Justin Simmons, for 3-4 years at that point, right? So I think it's more of they have to just wait and see what this team looks like. And even for Justin Simmons, too. I mean, does he really want to sign a 3-4 year deal with the team that could possibly go back into, trying to find a quarterback again and being stuck in a place where he's not going to even see the playoffs? So even for Justin Simmons, it's like, well, let's bet on yourself, because they obviously don't think you're a top, 3 safety in the league. And bet on yourself. If you are a top 3 safety in the league by the end of the season, then they'll pay you, or some other team will pay you, and your price will go up. So I think, honestly, it's better for both sides if you just see what happens.
Yeah, and everybody that the Broncos have franchise tagged, they've always come to a long-term agreement with them. Ryan Clady, Von Miller, Demaryius Thomas. I think Matt Prater was also franchise tagged.
But again, you're in a different time too.
Yeah, but I mean, it just history shows. I mean, every time they franchised a guy, they've gotten a deal done with them. So this could be just a sign of, and they still have a full day to work this out, and maybe they get a deal done. If they don't, then like you said, it's on Justin to kind of bet on himself and make the most of it. But it'd be the worst case scenario for the Broncos if they don't sign this guy and he goes and balls out and he's a top 3 safety, right, and you have to try and pay him top 3 money. I don't know if they want to do that.
Yeah, but again, I mean, my point, I mean, I don't think having a safety right now where the Broncos are at is really a priority. They can always find someone in free agency. They can always find someone in the draft. So, I mean, like you said, the last great safety that the Broncos had was Brian Dawkins, and that was over a decade ago.
And he was on his last legs too. I mean,
right.
He wasn't even in his prime anymore.
Right. So the Broncos don't.
I can't believe I forgot T.J. Ward and Darian Stewart.
They don't have a history of having great safeties. And when they did need
well,
safeties,
I don't know. They had Dennis Johnson and Steve Atwater.
Over the last,
they've had
over the last 15,
in recent times,
in the recent times, and
John Lynch.
And when they did need a safety like John Lynch and Brian Dawkins and T.J. Ward and Darian Stewart, they went out and signed them in free agency. So I don't think you can always find other safeties. It's not like if Drew Lock was on his last year and you're gonna just let him walk, right? That's quarterbacks are a little bit harder to find. But there's a reason why safeties are always available. There's a reason why receivers are always available, because you can always replace them. So, that's why, even when Sutton is up, I mean, if Jerry Jeudy and Hamler are great,
oh boy,
they're gonna let Sutton go.
Here you go.
They are.
Oh no.
If Jerry Jeudy is a Pro Bowl guy and KJ Hamler is another guy that's that they believe is gonna be a Pro Bowl guy, and they're playing like that for the next 2 years, you don't think that Sutton is really kind of just like, well, do we really have to pay him?
Well, Sutton's up after this season, I believe. If I'm not mistaken, I think his contract is done because he was a 2nd-round pick, right? So it's a 3, or does he have 4 years? No,
it's 4 years. It's 4 years.
Okay. When was he drafted?
He just
last year was his second season?
Yeah, he just finished.
So, okay, he's up after next season, right, then.
So say Sutton stays what he was at, He doesn't go any higher. He doesn't have a 100-catch season. He just kind of stays at where he's at, 70 plus, 1,200 yards. And Jerry Jeudy
I
is
mean, he's a
also
top
at
10 guy.
well, right,
I'd
right.
sign him.
But let's say Jerry Jeudy is pretty not far behind, and he's say he's making some big impact plays. He's just as valuable. And KJ Hamler is a poor man's version of Tyreek Hill, like everyone thinks he is. Say those do work out. Are you really going to go and pay Sutton that much money when you can save and maybe fill a hole that they need? Say a safety.
We'd have to see what the team is looking like at that time.
Right.
But
I'm just
if you're
saying,
asking me right now,
I'm just saying at the right wide receiver position, you can always replace those guys. There's very few guys that you can't replace. You can't replace Tyreek Hill. You can't replace. It's hard to replace a guy like Antonio Brown, right? Look how easy it was to replace DT. Like, look how easy that was.
yeah, but I mean,
Like,
they drafted some receivers before Sutton. It's not like he was, the first one drafted.
right, but they had
I mean,
already
they had
been
to go through the Khalif Raymonds and Carlos Henderson. Which one ate weed when he got pulled over? I mean, they had to go through those type of guys. Okay, so let's not act like he was just picked right
But it's not
off.
like you had DT, he left, and you had 5 years of crap, and then you finally found Sutton. You traded DT because you had Sutton. You let go of Brandon Marshall because you drafted DT. You got Brandon Marshall right after Rod Smith. It's literally been okay. It went from there was no year gap. It was always Rod Smith was there in his final couple years with Brandon Marshall. Brandon Marshall was there. He got traded. They had DT the same year. DT gets traded. You had Sutton the same year. It's not like the Broncos went through 5-6 years at the quarterback position where they went 5-6 years without having a guy and you're absolutely terrible. They've always had a receiver. They just find the next one.
The really good ones don't just pop at it. And you can't just pick those. Well, you can find productive guys.
Well, where did they find Rod Smith? Where did they find DT?
Well, he was undrafted.
Right.
DT was a first
DT
rounder.
was a late first round. Okay.
Cortland was a second rounder. But let's not forget they had to go through like the Cody Latimers and all those guys too.
But you still had DT. You were just trying to find a second guy.
But I'm saying though, it's not easy to just find those guys. Like, I mean, receivers aren't just
the Broncos
really
are making it
ones,
look easy then.
When you have a top 10 wide receivers they don't grow on trees. Cortland Sutton is arguably a top 10. He might be
They've
10,
had 3 in a
but
row.
he's in there. Yes, but it's not. What I'm saying is not
Rod
easy.
Smith.
But it's not easy to find those guys. It's not. They don't have multiple top 10 guys on one team. That's what I'm saying. Yes, you can find them. They've gotten really lucky. I mean, unless you're the Steelers. The Steelers just seem to draft great wide receivers all the time. That's just their thing. But I get it. I would have to see.
Out of all the positions, I think it's the easy. Well, right there with running back is probably the easiest to kind of just keep going through the. Well, running back is actually seemed to be kind of difficult for the Broncos, but receivers and throughout the league, right? You see 5 new receivers come in the league, and it's especially looking at fantasy football, like. You don't draft a receiver in the first round anymore because there's so many. There's so many that give you production, and that's just how the league is. That the class that receivers are in. I mean, look how many receivers were in this last draft class. It's ridiculous. Look how many were taken. So I just think, at the end of the day, safeties, receivers. If you have someone in the back ready to go that is looking good, it's not the biggest deal if you lose your best guy.
I don't know. I would have to see where the team is at because at that point we're talking. So this is Sutton's 3rd year. Okay, so Jeudy and Kamler's 1st year. Mm-hmm. So Sutton's last year of his deal will be their 2nd year. So they'll be going into their 3rd year. You'll have Jeudy for 5 years. I'm already assuming they'll exercise his 5th year option. You'll have Hamler for 4 years. So you'll have Jeudy for another, 3 seasons. You'll have Hamler for another 2 when Sutton's, up and he's a free agent. I think at that point you can sign him. I would sign him. And if I was the Broncos,
I'm not
which they
saying
don't do.
I'm not saying don't sign Sutton. I'm just saying if you don't have the money, it's not the biggest deal in the world if Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler are playing great. Just like Justin Simmons. I mean, if if you're not playing well, you don't really need to keep Justin Simmons because you have bigger issues, and you can always find another safety. It just depends on, like you said, the situation that you're in. Now, if you're a top 5 offense and Noah Fant, Jerry Jeudy, and KJ Hammer are big parts of that offense, and Jerry Jeudy and Sutton is just another kind of piece to go along with that offense, yeah, he's playing great and he's the number 1 receiver. But if Jerry Jeudy is capable of being that number 1 guy, and KJ Hamler is even capable of being a number 1 guy, then and you're kind of in a money crunch because maybe you need to sign Drew Lock, right? Maybe Drew Lock is gonna require a 10-year, $500 million deal. You don't know what situation you're gonna be in. If you are in a money crunch, I mean, letting go of Sutton isn't the biggest deal in the world at that point. You just draft another guy.
You're just killing me. I'm keeping Sutton. If he continues on his trajectory, I'm keeping him. And if the Broncos are smart, which they've shown that they're not a lot of the time, they would go to him in this next season and say, "Hey, let's get something done so we can save money now." That way, but they won't do this because they never do this. They're gonna wait till he's a free agent, or they'll franchise tag him and they'll have to pay him large money like they did DT. They were smart.
Look,
pay him now.
Get
through it now, and you'll be fine.
Drafting Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler in back-to-back rounds in the first and second round isn't just to get Drew Lock weapons. Yeah, that's part of it, but you also got to cover your ass too. And if you're looking down the road and you're gonna have a money problem because you got to sign Drew Lock to a massive deal in 2 years because you didn't draft him in the first round and you didn't get an extra year off that, like you should have, they're going to have a money problem. And, maybe if they're thinking ahead and if they're thinking, well, if we sign Sutton here, well, we won't be able to sign Drew Lock to a massive deal.
It's going to be hard after they sign Philip Lindsay to a 10-year, $200 million deal. I'm going to be honest with you. All right. He's going to take up a lot of
By the
salary
way,
cap.
That's another guy that they're going to let walk too.
If I was GM, Philip, I would sign you to a 10-year, $200 million deal. I would do it in a heartbeat. Just like I'd sign Nikola to a 20-year. I'd sign Nikola to a lifetime deal. Free Serbian cupcakes for you forever.
I'm sorry to burst your bubble, all Bronco fans, but this will be Philip Lindsay's final year as Bronco.
Makes me so angry.
They're not re-signing him.
I bought his jersey, and every time I buy a jersey, the player leaves. I have his jersey
so it's your fault.
And Nikola Jokic's jersey.
Oh,
you know what I was thinking about last night? That's what I said. I was thinking about that last night. I was watching this Denver Nuggets restart. I was like, man, Nikola Jokic is so great. Like, I'm fanboying. I'm just like, oh my God, he's awesome.
He's going to go to Milwaukee and play Giannis.
And then, okay, don't say that. That'd be awful. But I was like, man, if he leaves, like, I legitimately might shed a tear. If Nikola leaves, I think I might legitimately shed a tear. I don't know if I'd full on cry, but I might shed a tear.
I mean, you got
that would
another
hurt.
4 seasons after this season, right?
I think 2 or 3.
No, he signed a massive deal.
I think he's at 3. I think at 3 after this one. But yeah, we better get that figured out. We better get him a star ASAP. And I'm not talking a Jamal Murray star, unless Jamal turns into one or MPJ turns into one. Then I think he stays. But I mean, I'm so terrified. 3. Yeah, I'm terrified that he might go to want to go play with Luka because I see them all buddy all the time whenever they're around each other. I'm like, hey, stop that, Luka. Go play with Porzingis. Go buddy and tickle with Porzingis over there. Don't tickle with Jokic.
2023, Nikola Jokic will be the biggest free agent.
Who else is going to be a free agent that year?
I don't know.
I mean, unless Giannis does the 1-1 every year, then he's going to be. Or when is Luka up? I mean, Luka's going to be a huge free agent too.
Well, yeah, but Luka will be after his rookie contract. They'll sign him.
Right, he's going to get 7 years there. Yeah. He's not leaving anytime soon. Unless he asks for it out.
It's after their second contract that they can leave, unless the team lets them leave. Then, but after their rookie contract, they are a restricted free agent, so any team can. Their So like if Luka, say, after his 4 years, his first 4 years, if some team comes in and offers them like, offers him like 5 year, 200 mil, whatever, then Dallas will be able to just kind of match it. I believe that's how it works. I don't know. There's a reason why guys don't leave after their 4th year. Like Zion and or even like,
But I think the home team always has the edge.
yeah, the home
They
team
can
always
always
has the
offer
edge.
you more.
Well, they have the
Yeah,
biggest edge after that 4 year. Like essentially, they're guaranteed, hey, you're gonna have your guy through a second contract. But after that second contract, it's all it's all over. That's why a lot of these players, they should really sign, especially if they're on a bad team, they should really only sign like a 3-year deal, like a 2-3 year deal for their second contract. But they always go for the money. Like, don't blame them.
Well, when your contract looks like a telephone number, then I can't blame them. I
So
would sign that deal too.
never mind. He won't be the best player in 2023 draft class. Holy.
Who's-
You got James Harden, John Wall, Russell Westbrook, Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, Chris Middleton, Jimmy Butler, Kyrie Irving, Kristaps Porzingis, Kevin Love, Andrew Wiggins, Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic, D'Angelo Russell, Al Horford, and the rest is crap. But
Okay, the fact that you included Chris Middleton in there really frustrates me. But I'm just gonna pass
I'm just
over.
reading off the list.
Half of those guys are going
I
to be
didn't
like
realize.
35 plus. James Harden will be in his mid 30s.
True.
Kevin Love will be like 44.
Kevin Durant.
Al Horford will be 57.
I see the age right here. So Kevin Durant will be 35. Jimmy Butler will be 34. James Harden will be 34. Kyrie will be only 31. Really? By then though, he'll probably be acting like he's 38. So yeah, I mean, but here's the thing though, Porzingis is a free agent.
He's kind of gone down though.
Well, no,
Ever since
no, I'm
he's
not
gotten
saying
to
him
Dallas,
joining
though.
Denver. I'm saying Jokic joining Luka.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
'cause
That's
that
why I
money-
hate
that-
whenever they're around each other. They're all
that-
buddy and tickle. I
That
don't like it.
that money will be released. That $32 million. So they'll have cap space to where they can let Porzingis go and replace him with Jokic or replace him with Joel Embiid or whoever.
Or we replace Jamal with Luka.
Well, that won't happen until 2027.
Sign and trade. Trade Jamal, Luka, straight up. Fair trade. Right there. Boom. Problem solved. Championships galore.
I think the best
could you
chance
imagine?
that the Nuggets have is getting Giannis. If you want to add another star like that,
Okay, that's not gonna happen. I guarantee
that's the
Giannis will not sign with the Denver Nuggets.
well. That's
We can make a wager on this too.
No, I don't think that either. I'm just saying that we better hope that the Nuggets win a championship within the next 3 years.
Well, that probably won't happen.
Because or unless it's like Porter is a superstar, Bol is a star, and Jamal is an all-star. And it makes it extremely difficult. And they're like in the Western Conference Finals every year, and they're about to just break over that edge for Jokic to stay. Like they got to be there, or else he's gone. Because Jokic wants to
That's
win.
a depressing thing.
Jokic wants to win. Like it's not like he doesn't care about the big city, or at least it doesn't seem like it. And if he does leave, it probably would be to Milwaukee or Dallas, which aren't big cities anyways. So it's not like he wants to go to LA. It's more of he wants to win. So you better be either on the cusp of winning or already winning with him. Or else, yeah, he's gone.
A very depressing thing to think about, and that's what I was thinking about last night. It kept me up for many hours, to be honest with you. I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. I don't know how we got here, because we were talking about Justin Simmons' contract.
in like
but...
2K simulations, he always leaves. So.
Well, thank you. That's nice. That's good to know. I appreciate that. But to tie a bow on Justin Simmons, hopefully he gets a deal done. We'll see if he does. If he doesn't, then
not the biggest deal.
That's kind of all right. Well, I guess we'll just draft another guy unless you play really well. Before we wrap things up for today, though, the Lakers losing Rajon Rondo 6 to 8 weeks. Obviously, he's going to be done for the rest of the season. Fractured thumb or whatever it was, something like that. Now they're down Avery Bradley and Rondo, which two of their best defenders,
And
obviously
they
two of their
JR.
starting guards. So yeah, they had a JR who can't tell time apparently, and can't
Dude,
understand when to tie score
I'm still so
and
mad at
tie
him.
game.
I'm still
Yeah.
so mad.
Well, how do you think LeBron felt? He gave
I
us the
was li-
greatest meme
he
in
obviously
NBA history.
forgave him, but
Yeah.
I yeah.
But yeah, they add JR. So now you're down Bradley and Rondo. More reliant on LeBron, which I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing. But if you're a team like the Nuggets, I mean that at least helps. Now there's nobody necessarily hounding, Jamal Murray and Gary Harris up there. But honestly, they could probably not even play Gary Harris, and he'd miss an open three. So at that point, do you even need? You just throw Casper on Gary. I shouldn't be so disrespectful to Gary Harris. He just makes me so angry.
He's
I'm
gonna
so
come
angry.
out and shoot 60% from 3.
You know what? Please prove me wrong. Please, for the love of God, please just stop shooting so terribly. Please make a shot.
Especially those
Please.
floaters. Just go for a layup at that point.
He is so overthinking those floaters at this point. I mean, he's gonna start throwing them behind the back. Any way he can try and get it to go in. I mean, he really needs to see that thing go in. But no, it's a slight advantage for the. Well, I shouldn't say slight advantage. It's a good thing for the Nuggets when that team's down those type of guys.
Yeah, but by the time they play each other, he'll be back.
I think he's done for the rest of the season.
They said 6 to 8 weeks.
I thought I saw somewhere that he was done for the season.
I saw 6 to 8 weeks.
Okay.
Basically, he'll be back by the end of the second, beginning of the conference finals.
Okay, well, never mind. Screw me then. Bradley's not going to play though. He opted out, so he's completely opted out. So,
right. But to be fair, I think JR is a better addition than Bradley. I think they could use JR a little bit more with his shooting. And look, during those Cleveland days, and I get it, it was a long time ago at this point. It was 5 years ago. But when they won, he was one of their best defenders.
Yeah, but he's like mid-30s now, and his shooting is always up and down. Like you can never count on Jay. Like he is Jamal Murray on steroids.
Right. You can never count on him, but
he'll put up 74 in one game, and then the next game he'll have -7 point. And
yeah,
foul
but
out.
I think his effort defensively will be there to where I really don't think there will be a big difference between Avery Bradley and J.R. Smith. So,
right.
and look, losing Rondo hurts them against teams like the Nuggets or the Clippers. But if he's back by then, it's really not going to affect. They're fine. The Lakers will be there in the conference finals. Unless the Nuggets or the Clippers drop to the 4 or 5 seed, if you're a Lakers fan or if you're the Lakers at all, like probably not worried. They have LeBron and Anthony Davis. They're fine.
Yeah, and they have all that size on that team.
And really, Rondo wasn't helping them. Rondo was not playing well towards when everything got stopped. So I don't think it's really that big of a deal, but. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe I'm wrong.
It's going to be something interesting to watch. And hopefully
16 days. I don't know about you, but I am extremely excited to start watching.
I am. Oh, yeah. No,
but
I am.
It'll be really interesting to see. It's going to feel weird without having fans. I don't know how they're going to do, extra camera angles or if we're going to be able to hear literally everything. Because
I saw somewhere that they're thinking about doing it on a tape delay so that they can.
They're gonna have to.
The majority of the broadcast is just gonna be dumped out. So you're gonna hear the broadcasters talking for 2 seconds, and it's gonna be dumped for like 10 seconds.
What they need to do is separate those channels so at least they get the commentators the whole time to make sure that there's some sound.
Or they need to hire somebody who runs drops, and whenever you hear a cuss word, they hit a quack or like a funny sound bite. Whenever a player like says something, you hear like a merp or quack. Just that would be hilarious. I really think they're dropping the ball here by not having one fan from each team in the bubble just sitting in the arena so they can cheer and talk crap the whole time. That would be fun to watch.
That would be funny.
You just hear Jokic drains a three. Woo! Yeah! And then you hear the other fan, he sucks! That's a foul, ref! Like, oh my God,
Uh,
I would totally do that. If they paid me to do that, I would totally be the singular fan. I'd be cursing out Mason Plumlee the whole time. I'd probably end up dying because he'd probably, come over there and squish me. But it would be fun. I think it'd be fun to watch.
that would be
But
that would be
yes, as you mentioned, it's not very far off, and we don't have to wait very long. And just when, I watched that Nuggets restart and I was like, man, you know what? I really miss this team. I had a smile. I was like, man, this team makes me feel so nice. Like, I miss watching them. They're fun. And then I'm going to watch them and I'm going to get 10 minutes in and I'm going to be already angry.
Yeah, all
I'm like,
Malone's
damn.
hair will be gone halfway through the game. The first
Oh yeah,
game.
all that hair that you have, Malone. Yeah, no, that's going bye-bye. That thing's gonna be gone. Yeah, I literally just cannot wait for the first camera shot to pan onto him because he makes the same face every time, at least 3 times a game, where he looks up at the ceiling and he's whispering something to himself, and his face is a little bit plush and red, and you can just tell either he's telling himself to calm down or he's cussing the player out in his mind and he's just not trying to look at the player. But that's literally me. Whenever he gets angry at the Nuggets, he is my spirit animal because that is literally me. I am internally cussing, and most of the time it's either at Gary Harris or it's at Mason Plumlee for doing something stupid. So.
Well, for me it's Will. So, yeah.
And hopefully Will can make.
Honestly, I feel like he makes most of those faces after Will does something stupid.
I mean, it seems like there's a lot of opportunities to make those faces with the Nuggets throughout the game. Whatever.
Now
player.
let's put MPJ and BOL out there too and see what happens.
Oh yeah, no, sometimes I worry about Malone's health. I really think he's gonna have a heart attack on the sideline because he gets so angry. I hope somebody's giving him like some CBD drops after the game, or maybe he's got a nice little gummy waiting for him in his locker, his coach's locker after the game, so he can calm down a little bit because he gets very angry and it shows in his face. That's that New York in him coming out like he's about to rage on somebody. But that's going to do it for us today. We thank you guys for listening. Hopefully you had fun. We had some fun. And hopefully the Nuggets can get on track. Hopefully we get a deal done with Justin Simmons. There's a lot to look forward to in the city of Denver and Colorado as a whole when sports look to return, hopefully sometime soon. But that's going to do it for us today. We'll catch you guys on Friday. For Brandon Stoll, I'm Stephen Priest. This has been the Behind the Glass Sports Podcast.